Hi, this is Tom Buckley from the Education Innovation team. I am locked over at French A, but I'm just putting a video together to just go over what we talked about in our Digitizing OSCE session last week, the week before, for people that couldn't make it. Just to clarify at this stage, all it really was putting down some workflows that we think we have at the university and we think we have that work well, and putting them together to try and be meaningful for an OSCE process. It could be extrapolated out to a presentation marking or anything like that. What we weren't trying to do in the session is tell anyone how to do anything or really kind of radically alter your OSCEs at all. We were just showing a way that we could do it if we wanted to and asking for some feedback about whether it was practicable or not. So what is it we discussed? Well, the first thing we discussed really was recording the assessment. A lot of people still use cameras in rooms. They trust a camera a bit more than they do other things, and also it's just easier to set up than using the systems that we already have and the lectern PCs. For the next academic year, we'll be moving towards using Panopto to record assessments if that's what you wish to do. Now, by record assessment, I literally mean video record, and it could be a presentation, a role play, a Viva, or whatever. At the moment, we're doing it in Kaltura, and will finally change probably in the summer of 2019. And it's changed by doing this. You basically go to your course folder on Panopto, the cloud version of Panopto, and you create something called an assignment folder, which is on the screen now. What that allows you to do is create a subfolder within your Panopto recordings that can't be viewed by students. So it's basically just acts like a little tab beneath the folder when you choose it. It'll become apparent soon. And it is a folder that only staff members can see, but it still allows you to use the camera in the room. So that has to be done before the session. As does really thinking about what you want to be recorded, and if you're doing it via this method, how many webcams you'll need for each station. Strange thing to say, but we often think of event capture as just the camera on the ceiling and a lectern, but the system's a lot more powerful than that. You can connect different cameras. You can not record the screen at all and just record cameras. All you really need to have is an audio feed going in, otherwise it's pointless. So what we did on the day was we set up this camera on the right hand side, maybe your left, the one with the remote control in front of it, on a tripod, as well as another camera. And we had a setup there using the lecture capture or event capture system, but not necessarily the hardware in the room. That allowed us to focus on the hands of whatever someone was doing, or the hands and the face at the same time. So it's really worth thinking about, or just appraising yourself that it's possible of having different shots even though you're connected to a PC that's recording. During the assessment. So for the recording element, the only thing you really need to do during the assessment, if you've ever used Panopto, it's not radically different, but you'll see by creating the assignment folder, at the bottom you see this box. It just sits as a subfolder within Panopto, so that's the cloud view of Panopto. And the box on the right-hand side, maybe your left-hand side, you'll see that the Test G Dunlop test course has a subfolder. Test G Dunlop 1 Test Gizzy's course with brackets assignments afterwards. And all you really need to do, and there's a lot of stress and bother about this, is select that folder and ensure you don't select the folder above that. As long as you do that, it will be invisible from students. Obviously, there's still the whole rest of it about picking the feeds. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like with two different cameras and no screen capture. There's my lovely face on it. Afterwards, you might not be using the recording to mark from. You might already have marked, either using the Rubrics system or a piece of paper. But the second marker can go into Panopto, into that folder, and find the recording. Once they've found the recording, you'll see on the screen here we have the comment section from the side of the recording. The comment section is time-stamped to when the comment was made, and it allows you to give really structured feedback about specific parts of the video or procedure that you videoed. So if you wanted to, you could watch the video back, marking it as a second marker, and just really give some constructive feedback on specific things which are represented on screen, and a student can browse via these tags rather than just watching all the way through the video and trying to work out whether comments are relevant and whether not. Really quite a powerful tool, allows you to be a bit discursive, but it does mean you have to then share it in a way that the students can see, because if you remember, we've done it in a way that we knew the students couldn't see by design. So yeah, it's really easily done, but if you're doing it at scale, it might be a little bit hectic. The next thing we moved on to look at is this rubrics system. I'm not going to dwell on how to set it up before the assessment, because that's probably an hour-long training session. But there is an area of Blackboard that allows you to have a rubric. A rubric is just a matrix with points or feedback on, and it's really a shortcutting tool for us to be able to give feedback to people that's meaningful to what they did, but also guides the marking process. There's various different kinds of rubrics. We're not going to go into that, but there is a section of Blackboard that if you have it switched on, which you can do, you can give people rubric-based marks on various different things. You could do it for a file they submitted, a wiki, a blog, etc. For us, what we do is we kind of manipulate the grade center, as you can see on the left, to have columns which otherwise they would not exist. They're not related to anything that happens in Blackboard, and they're just for individual stations to mark with. So I would go to the OSCE Station 2 column, I'd go to the student that I was marking, and I'd be able to pick up a rubric from there. And this is how you do it. So you locate the student, locate the column. You click the downward chevron to select View Grade Details, and you can view the rubric, fill it in, and contain some feedback. We did kind of toy with the idea of packaging the video up with this feedback process, but it just became a bit cumbersome. So all packaged together, what that really looks like is you go to a grade center column as a marker, you go to full grade center, you find your student, you go to the OSCE station you're marking, you'll go to View Grade Details. You have the ability to write feedback to the learner there, grading notes that the learner doesn't see, and when you've got someone in front of you, you can open this up and mark accordingly. You can give individual feedback for each matrix area, although during the exam session itself you might not want to do that. There was a conversation really about whether you do this live or whether you just match it up with your paper records later, but you can certainly have loads of opportunities for feedback, both generic and specific. You can overwrite with some negative marking, and you can give feedback to learner there. Once you've saved, the mark will be saved to this area. You can put more grading notes. This is probably going to be used more for second markers to come in and say where they've changed something, and you can save it. If we go back to the grade center, lo and behold, that mark is there. So these are columns that we've invented. We've associated them with a rubric, and we have a total column there for all of the examinations together. We can control what the student sees of this, but let's have a look now at what the student would see from my test student. We can set it up so they see my grades, and they see for each station the rubric, and if we want them to see the scores in the rubric we can, and the feedback there through Blackboard. So that's the written feedback from the higher level and the feedback on the actual rubric is there. Okay, so basically doing it this way opens new potential for different types of feedback. For the second marking, there's an associated workflow. It basically involves going to the video, which we've discussed previously, on Panopto, through the assignments folder. You can overwrite grades that have been done. You can change the rubric notes as well. The second marker just needs to do that through the Grade Center and Blackboard, and they can add their own notes and change the grade for which the student will see, and it's all calculated into a Blackboard column, which is easily exported to ISIS. That was it really. It was kind of a proof of concept, kind of like, is this a workable thing? But there's loads of different skills, loads of different new techniques to kind of get your head around. What people left with, I think, was, oh, I like this bit. I like the ability to get rubric-based feedback through Blackboard. Even if it's not to do with the marking on the day, it's actually easier than photocopying loads of marking sheets and leaving it with the SAT team. So it was about productivity. Otherwise, the notes on the video and the feedback, even if you weren't doing it through marking, through OSCEs, if you were just doing it on a role play, a simulation or clinical practice, people saw that as quite good because it was quite targeted and made sense more than just a lump of text. It was also personal to the video that had been recorded. I hope you found that useful. Any questions, come back to me and I will endeavour to get back to you in less than a month. Ciao!